Greetings. This is the Ghetto Free Press out of Valdosta, Georgia, with an update about what's going on here in South Georgia, the state of Georgia, and across the United States of America. I want to talk this evening about the mistrial concerning the Quitman 10+2 in Brooks County, Georgia. On Friday, September the 27th, the Honorable Judge Ronnie Joe Lane pronounced a mistrial in a trial concerning alleged voter fraud dealing with absentee ballots. They were arrested December 21st, 2010. I was in Atlanta, Georgia when I received the call from one of the Quitman 10, and they said to me, George, police down here have lost their mind. They were arresting people, and according to one of the persons that were arrested among the Quitman 10 said that an elected official wife from the Brooks County Board of Commissioners had been arrested, and that it could have been done and handled in a better fashion. Being who I am, I went to a friend of mine, Pastor Calvin Dudley here in Valdosta. When I got back to Atlanta, when I got back from Atlanta, we walked the streets of Brooks County, Quitman. We interviewed people on a personal level, not as a GBI agent, nor as the Secretary of State, Brian P. Kemp's investigators that came down to investigate, as we discovered in the courtroom of Brooks County. But I walked the streets, and I do have some relatives over in Brooks County as well as some friends. They told me about the intimidation by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. They say they had lost respect for the GBI because of the way they were talked to, the way they came inside of their homes and spoke. These people talked about a GBI agent in a white truck. One of my cousins who are ill right now talked about one lady that she knew personally, lived right across the street from her, how the GBI intimidated her so much until she refused to go back to the polls to vote. I later found out that there was an 84-year-old lady in Morven, Georgia, that would not go back to the polls to vote because she was so intimidated by members of law enforcement. Be that as it may, when I listened to Dr. Nancy Dennard, the Reverend Representative Tyrone Brooks, former Senator, the late Senator Robert Brown, Helen Butler, some white people who traveled to Macon, Georgia with the Quitman 10, they all spoke about how they felt that the Quitman 10+2 were being railroaded. I began to write letters to the editor, many of which were disapproved and never published. And so I started blogging and putting together YouTubes about the Quitman 10, and that the news media seemed to be squashing the truth surrounding the Quitman 10+2, and that when I went to the Brooks County Board of Education meetings as President Dennard, an outstanding person in the community, it seemed as if though there was a tension in the room that you could cut it with a butcher knife. Brad Shealy was the president before Nancy Dennard, and when he stepped down from that position, He sat there on the board looking unconcerned, looking as if though he hated every minute that Nancy Dennard served the people of Brooks County. Well, you may say, George Boston Rhines, why do you say that about former president of the Brooks County Board of Education? It is because you will see what I saw if you would only look at the videos on YouTube. I operated the camera and I focused on him so the world could see the tension or the resentment of a black African American being president in that position. And for the first time in Brooks County history, blacks had a majority vote on the Brooks County Board of Education, and some didn't like it. And in my most humble opinion, along with others, such as Helen Butler, Representative Tyrone Brooks, Representative David Lucas, Representative others, Reverend Joseph Lowry, one of the veterans that marched with Martin Luther King in a prestigious manner, one who came and traveled to Quitman and spoke at Shoemate Church of Christ because he believed in the continuation of the dream of Dr. King. And so Nancy Dennard, Ms. Trotman, and Diane Thomas all were later removed from the Brooks County Board of Education as a result of these accusations against these 12 outstanding citizens in our community, most of whom have college degrees, are the most respected citizens any community could have. And so, Republican Governor Nathan Deal removed them from office. And so while I was in Atlanta, I went and stood on the steps of the Capitol, and I talked about Nathan Deal and how he removed these people, disenfranchising the people of Brooks County. They voted them into office. Why couldn't he just wait and let the justice and the legal system take its course? And so, be that as it may, so I watched the Quitman Free Press, the Valdosta Daily Times, television, radio stations here in Valdosta, in my most humble opinion, ignore the historic progress, let me repeat, the historic progress of the Brooks County citizens who were represented by these elected officials. They refuse to publish the fact that support came from across this area, from Waycross, Coffee County, Thomasville, Macon, all around South and Middle Georgia in support of the Quitman 10, and that they had done nothing wrong, and that some whites and a few blacks disapproved of a majority black vote on the Brooks County Board of Education. Therefore, they wanted to undo what was done and to skip right along. Of course, you know that the time limit expired for those outstanding 3 board members to be off of the board, and so they were reinstated and they are on the board serving today. Now, as I said, I walked the streets of Quitman along with Calvin Benjamin, and I walked alone. I have friends here in Valdosta that lives in Brooks County. One lady, particularly in the convenience store right down Ashley Street, told me how the GBI talked to her child, told me about how the GBI wanted to meet people between Brooks County and Lowndes County to talk with them. They said it was done in a very unprofessional manner. Don't take my word, because it was not me. It was the people that lives in Brooks County. Now back on point. It's something amazing that when the Quitman 10+2 had rallies, 250 people met from in the Walker Street School Auditorium. The SCLC president, that is the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, with Mostella, it was ignored. That was on Juneteenth. Yet, nothing was published in the newspaper about it. State leaders was there, representatives was at that meeting, but all that news was ignored. Nothing published in the newspaper, nothing on TV, nothing on radio, but the Quitman Free Press, they too ignored it, and that's right there in Quitman, Georgia. But you will see it all in its entirety on my YouTube channel. Then the Quitman 10 also went to Atlanta, to the Capitol, met with Tyrone Brooks. We went to the floor of the General Assembly to sit. We didn't get to speak, but we went. Then we strategized on how we could deal with the same problem that we thought we had resolved back in the 60s. And so the next move of the Quitman 10+2 was the journey to Savannah, Georgia. And in between that, back and forth from Brooks County to Macon, and from Macon to Savannah, and from Savannah to Atlanta, and from Atlanta to other places, because people wanted to hear about the Quitman 12. During this disgraceful, painful ordeal, the NAACP spoke out, the SCLC spoke out. Operation Push, we did not hear too much about. Yet, the people in Brooks County stayed united. They stayed united in the effort to try to carry on the real dream of Dr. King, and not just talk about Dr. King on his birthday, or to quote his most easily acceptable statements, but refuse to listen to the other powerful messages that came through God into his brain, that was exited from his mouth to enter into the ears of the righteous, and to change the unrighteous if they would only open up to that. And so the Quitman 10, in many instances, was portrayed as common day criminals, mugshots, showing them as inhumane for the most part. They talked about the Quitman 10 on 105.9 and 92.1, the conservative radio stations, as if though they were already guilty in a court of law. But some of us stood with the Quitman 10. We refused to punk out under pressure. We refused to be Uncle Tom's and Aunt James and Lou Elabelle. We stood strong because we knew something was wrong. We knew that we could not trust the GBI, law enforcement. Not all of them, for some of them are upright citizens, but they are in the same bucket because they know of the corruption but say nothing about it. And so we claim to be a nation of laws. But if we fail to stand up to make America greater by speaking the truth, then we become a traitor to this nation. Now, this is video 1. This is video 1 concerning the mistrial of the Quitman 10+2. And I want you to know the rest of the story. This is clip 1. I want to take you in the next clip. I want to show you that from the time the court case started, how the news media failed to report it to you. And so you don't know what happened even in the courtroom on September the 23rd, because the TV stations was not there, the radio stations were not there, they just wasn't there. And so they didn't record like I did. I was there every day. I know what took place, and pretty soon you will know what took place. Yes, the Valdosta Daily Times wrote a little bit in 2 papers. The last one, September 27th, which led Quitman 11th trial continues. Yes, that was true, but it was also a mistrial. But I was there, I got the people coming out of the courtroom, and we want to share it all with you. I'm going to say again that the 1860 city charter here in Valdosta read, before it was removed in 2004, early 2004, because I asked that that disgraceful, ugly, ungodly, and un-American charter be removed from the walls of the 2nd floor of City Hall, leading into the Honorable Judge Edwards' courtroom. And it was reluctantly removed. Mayor John Freddy saw nothing wrong with it. Some of the other white councilmen saw nothing wrong with it. But in the mind of the Creator of God, I told them that the God of my salvation would ensure that that charter was removed and taken to the museum as a relic of history. I have gone to the museum and asked, where is it? It seemed as if though nobody knows where it is. But let me quote to you what that disgraceful charter said, although there was whites in 2004 that saw nothing wrong with these words. I was called on a local conservative radio station with Scott James in a debate, I guess. I have it all recorded and I got it all documented, because you have a right to know. Not only from yesterday and today, but our children and coming generations should know the truth before the edge of night arrive. Now here's what it says: that the mayor and council shall pass all proper and necessary laws and ordinances for the control of slaves and free persons of color, and to control, suppress, and abate all nuisances arising from hogs, dogs, horses, and other livestock straying at large in Valdosta, Georgia. Can you imagine I put 21 years with putting my life on the line? When that alarm went off at Moot Air Force Base and they told us to get on that plane and ride, we didn't know where we was going. Location data mask, they called it. You don't know until you get there. Yet, they gonna put and allow something like that to be on the chart. Then they gonna allow the Quitman 10, 12 of the most outstanding citizens to be charged with alleged voter fraud. And the base of those accusations were there was a spike in absentee ballots. When we come back with the next clip, we're gonna tell you about the spike in absentee ballots and what causes a spike when Georgia changes its laws. Once again, this is the Ghetto Free Press, KYRC, which means the Know Your Rights campaign. You have a right to speak out. It's too many Negroes living in fear. Too many white people living in fear. And it could not have been better expressed than the professor at Valdosta State University, Matthew Richards, in his video called A Chorus of Fear that he put together. And we're gonna put this together because we love you just that much. I am George Boston Rhymes in the city of Valdosta, Georgia. We do this because you have a right to know. Once again, under our form of government, we must ask a question. Are we really a nation of laws? This is the Ghetto Free Press. Bye-bye. We gone.